Everyone's screaming about the high interest rates, but what if we are looking at all this wrong? Today, we're going to look at why rates aren't the villain and how long-term loans like a 50-year and a 30-year fix can actually be a gift, and how inflation may quietly be working in your favor. So stay to the end for five practical takeaways that you can think of that will help you become smarter about loans and about real estate. Now, if this helps you, follow The Advisor with Stacey Chillemi on Apple and Spotify. Subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, Stacey Chillemi Advisor, and leave a five-star review so more people can find conversations like this. Now, my guest today, Adiel, he is an amazing real estate investor, and he is the founder of ICG Real Estate Investments, who help thousands of people use long-term fixed rate loans to build wealth over time. He is also part of our podcast community, and he has his own podcast that you can find. Just type in his name and it will pop out, the ICG Real Estate Investments. And he's here today. So, Adiel, it's such a pleasure to have you back on the show. I love talking to you. I learned so much as well. And you're just truly an amazing individual when it comes to knowledgeable real estate advice. So tell everybody a little about yourself so they understand who you are and what you represent.
Thank you, Stacy. And actually, what we're going to be talking about today relates to my background. So my background is actually not in real estate at all or in business at all. It's in high tech. I'm an electrical engineer and computer scientist. I was in Silicon Valley. I taught at the university there and worked in research. And I only started investing in rental homes when I realized that I saw that even the high salaries in Silicon Valley that I was getting weren't enough to really build a strong financial future. I realized I had to supplement it by building my own, empire privately, using the good salary and the credit to build it up. So when I
Right.
was doing it, all of a sudden word got around in Silicon Valley and people said, "Can you help me too? Can you help me too?" And I didn't mean to do that. Eventually, I was helping many of my friends, liked it so much, started getting some notoriety about it because it was a little bit unusual at the time what I was doing because I was investing out of state in places that made sense rather
Right.
than in state next to where I lived, which was an expensive area in Silicon Valley. So,
Right.
I mean, eventually I dropped my high tech life and started our company, ICG. And for 40 years, thousands of people have retired and sent their kids to the best colleges and became wealthy. So the results are in. And one of the things that I predicate all of this on is people made money in rental home investments throughout the entire history of the world.
Right.
In in every corner of the world, in every country, but in this country, specifically the United States, there is something extra, something very good for you, the person who buys those rental homes, the person who gets those loans.
Yeah.
They give you in the United States the biggest financial gift in the world, in my opinion. And most Americans know the name of the gift, they know about its existence, but they never make the connection about what a
Yes.
great gift it is. The only individual I've been in touch with who got it before I explained it is Warren Buffett in 2012. He's already he's not very young and he's quite wealthy. So here I am propagating this message. For
Yeah.
example, you can listen to my TEDx talk. It's only 11 and a half minutes explaining why it's so amazing that people give you a loan where the monthly payment never changed with inflation. And the loan balance, how much you owe, also doesn't change with inflation. Yet
Yeah.
everything else in the US economy keeps rising with inflation. The cost of
Right.
shoes, shirts, pants, rents, houses, tomatoes, everything. So as inflation makes the dollar weaker and you need more and more dollars to buy the same goods, and yet your loan remains exactly the same, what happens is inflation becomes your best friend over time,
Right.
eroding the real value of the loan into nothingness, and you don't have to wait for 30 years. from
Yes.
vast experience. Between 12 and 14 years, your loan looks so tiny that you have built equity, you have built wealth, and it's amazing. I can give the example from the last time we talked, but this is
Yeah.
what I predicate our investments on.
Right. Now,
So,
everyone is saying, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
so we like to make the vehicles to put that unbelievable gift on simple. So this gift is only given on 1 to 4 residential units. So we buy primarily single family homes, sometimes duplexes, and we buy them brand new in the suburbs of good large metropolitan areas in the nation where the numbers work and the economy is good, not necessarily in expensive places like the one that I live in. And then
Right.
we put those loans on. We have set property management firms in all of these markets so people can be very busy and yet own homes. And you just let the time go by, and time and inflation, plus the rent payments from the tenant, will build you wealth. Very simple. Try to make it as simple as I can.
Now, everyone's saying that rates are so high, I'm out. From your perspective, why are people getting this wrong in our society about today's interest rate environment?
Okay. So again, I can only give the perspective of having been doing it for about 41 years, but I know people who've been doing it for 65 years, and you
Right.
can look at history. Historically, the current rates today, as we are speaking, in 6.19,
Right.
6.19 fixed for 30 years. Historically, that's a very low rate, very, very low. Just by way of example, when I started investing in the middle of the 1980s, the rates were 14. A couple of years prior to that, the rates were 18.
Right.
So, I mean, I bought my first 2, 3 dozen homes at a rate of 14 with a small down payment. Of course, the cash flow wasn't great. In fact, they all started below. I needed to make up the difference, which I could afford because my salary was good. But then the rates went down. I had a clear notion. I said, even at 14, it's fixed, not going to change. Inflation will bring the rents up. And of course, when the rates are 14, inflation
Right.
is not low. So inflation will bring the rents up and it'll become break even and then positive and more positive. That was a clear idea that I luckily had in my head. And that's exactly what happened, except a couple of years later, the rates went down to, can you believe it? 12. 12. We all ran out and refinanced everything to 12. Everything became positive cash flow, beautiful. A couple of years later, you're not going to believe it. The media was screaming, yelling, single digit interest rates. We all ran out and refinanced to 9.95. What a day that was. So as you can
Mhm.
see, I don't need to see any stand-up comedy anymore because people say that 6% is so high. I mean, 6% is unbelievable. Most of my career, if you told me that you're going to give me a 30-year fixed rate loan at 7.5, I would be dancing in the street. So why are people saying that 6% is high? Because a lot of the media has moved to social media. And a lot of
Right.
the writers are very young people, some of them living with a roommate in a rented apartment, yet writing about real estate investments, which is fine. But for the very young person, history is short. So they remember the beautiful days of COVID, if we can call it beautiful, where the Fed lowered rates close to zero, and as a consequence, mortgage rates became 3% or 2.25, 2.75, or 2.5, or 3.25. And
Right.
then inflation came and the rates went up, the Fed raised up, and the mortgage rates went up to 7.9, and then they came down again now to about 6.19 right now.
Hmm.
So the media, who remembers only some in the media, who remember only the last 5, 6 years, obviously 6 is much higher than 3.
Right.
So you see headlines: the sky has fallen, everything has been destroyed, the universe has exploded because the rates are 6. Meaning, don't do anything, sit on the sidelines and wait. Okay, I can tell you from the trenches now, not writing on a keyboard in a nice rented apartment with a roommate, from the
Yeah.
trenches. What happened when the rates were super duper low? As investors, we could hardly buy anything at all.
Right.
Because when the rates were super duper low, the media encouraged everybody to buy, and rightfully so. The rates are low. Demand became enormous. Supply was still suffering from the COVID supply chain problems. Supply was
Yeah.
low, demand was high. In 2021, 2022, prices shot up in many markets.
Right.
Houses became much more expensive. In some places, they went up as much as 50%, 50.
Right.
In addition, as I already said, we like to buy brand new homes. Well, who do you buy brand new homes from?
Right.
Builders, developers. So the builders were saying, my God, I'm getting so much demand, I can't supply it, so I can be very picky. I'm getting much more business that I need. So, number one, I'm not going to even work with investors. No investors at all, only homeowners. Why? Homeowners can get those FHA loans with only 3.5% down. You know, homeowners fall in love with the home, they will go through with the transaction. An investor is more cold, maybe they will find a better deal. No investors. So during the time when rates were so super low, we really wanted to buy, but we had to wait on waiting lists of months and months and months. It was hard to find anything to buy. And
Yeah.
there was competition on everything, you know, that kind of time. So now when the rates have gone up, the media says, 6%, so high, don't do anything. Wait until rates go down. And millions of people read the written word, and the minute it's a written word, it's the Bible. I don't care if it's on TikTok, it's the Bible. So
Yes.
millions of people are not buying. So demand is lower. You know, they talk about affordability crisis. Okay. As a result of the demand going lower, in the meantime, the builders have made supply much better. So they have good supply. The demand is low. They really want to sell. So they're
Right.
very friendly to the buyer, including to investors. Oh, they're so friendly. They love investors now. And they give you gifts to entice you to buy. And very ironically to this discussion, one of the gifts is they buy down the loan rate. So we just had our ICG quarterly event on Saturday, December 6th, 2 days ago. And we saw properties from all the markets that we are dealing with. We saw fixed rate 30-year loans at 5.25, 4.75, 4.25 fixed for 30 years. Does the media know that? Doesn't seem like they do because they don't seem to write about it. So
Right.
actually, ironically, you get very low rates now. In addition, it's a very nice environment to buy. The sellers, the builders, we buy new homes, are desperate to sell. So it's easier. The prices have gone down quite a bit because
Yeah.
demand is lower. This is an excellent time to buy when you're an investor. I'm not saying there is still an affordability crisis. There are still places where many people's salary are not enough to buy a home. I'm talking about investors buying homes. So now they're much cheaper. The sellers are friendlier. They buy down your rate. What an ideal time to buy.
Yeah.
You can get rates at 4.5. But if somebody believes the rate will someday go back to 3, guess what
Right.
you do if they do? First, I'm not sure they will. But if they do, refinance to 3 in the future. But
Right.
buy when it's easy and nice to buy. So
Yes.
that will make a big difference. Now, what happens if you wait until the rates go down? Let's assume the rates will go down in the future. Let's say they go down to 4. I'm just making up a story because I don't know the future. What's going to
Yeah.
happen? The clickboard media, the click is going to write buy, buy, buy. Millions of people are going to run in and want to buy. Demand's
Yeah.
going to go crazy. Supply is not going to match up. Prices are going to zoom up through the ceiling. Investors are going to have a hard time even buying anything. It's going to be a nightmare. Why
Yes.
not buy when it's paradise? Why wait
Right.
until it's a nightmare? So I mean, it's so obvious. But that's what I have to say about this.
Now, for someone who's listening who feels frozen, I missed those low rates. It's over. What's the first mindset shift that you want them to make?
Well, number one, look, and you can look it up in 2 seconds. You can ask a chat GPT type program to show you the history, and you'll immediately realize 6.19% fixed for 30 years is an unbelievably low rate
Yeah.
historically. It's, yes, compared to this 1.5 years, 2021, 2022, with 3%. Yeah, it seems high, but very low rate historically. And remember, you can always refinance it down if it goes down. And remember what I just said. Builders are so eager to sell, they buy your rate down. On
Yeah.
Saturday, there was one builder, and his name was not Bob, but there was one builder, and he showed us rate at 4.25 fixed for 30 years.
Oh,
Right
wow.
now, not waiting until the future when everybody jumps and competes with each other with fists and the rates go up. No, now, buying cheerfully, nicely, prices are lower, and the rate is 4.25.
Right.
What else you want?
Exactly. Now, when you look at a loan, what matters more to you? The headline rate or the long-term effects or inflation rate growth and time?
Well, you said most of the things that matter to me right now in what you said. I care about the fact that the loan is fixed. In other
Hmm.
words, here is inflation raising the price of everything else, but your loan is fixed.
Right.
And then giving it some time for the loan to look funny. I told you the story last time we talked about the person who bought 19 homes. And again, it's not as impressive because he bought them in his early 40s, new homes at 150,000 each back then,
Right.
with low down payments, not hard for him to do. He was in Silicon Valley. And then he
Yeah.
got to be 55. He looked at the 19 homes. After 13 years, in his example, all the loans that started out very high were about 1/4 of the value of the home. So he
Hmm.
had millions of dollars in equity. He sold 4 of the homes, paid his taxes on the sale, didn't do anything fancy, used the proceeds to pay off the 15 remaining small loans, and
Yeah.
with 15 free and clear homes, he retired from Silicon Valley. And you don't have to be a Silicon Valley guy to do it or girl. You could be a
Right.
teacher, you could be a teacher, a truck driver, a nurse, anything of that. And you don't have to have 19 homes. You could have bought 2 homes, 1 home, 6,
Right.
67, 31, any number. Each
Yeah.
such home is just a building block. And it's a life
Exactly.
changer. And in his case, in 13 years, the loans were almost, I mean, they were just a quarter, very, very low. So I look at the passage of time and inflation coupled with the rent that you get from the tenant
Right.
conspiring to bring down your loan and build you wealth.
Now, when can a longer loan be a strategic advantage for an investor or for a homeowner?
Okay, so this is a great point you just raised, Stacy. Thank you, and I want to talk about it. So we read in the media about the affordability crisis right now in
Hmm.
many markets, and this is a real thing. This is not made up. The the median or the average home price is such that the average salary is not enough to buy it. And that's an affordability crisis that is really hard. So there was a suggestion that came from the administration to allow 50-year fixed rate loans. Now, in the history of this country, we have had 40-year fixed rate loan. In fact, I took some such loans, but it's very, very entertaining to see in the media the responses to this suggestion. So
Hmm.
some of it comes from, again, I don't care about the politics at all. I'm not saying I'm this politically or that politically. Let's say I'm right in the center. But I mean, some of it comes from literally from TDS, Trump derangement syndrome. If the administration suggested it, it must be horrible. Yeah, but I'm talking about the regular. So you see a lot of experts talking about the 50-year loan and mostly disparaging it. So because of my engineering background, I want to talk about what it really means in logical, mathematical, engineering thinking way
Right.
and show you what it can do for you. So let's go back one step. Throughout my entire career, I've been talking about the amazing gift called the 30-year fixed rate loan. And we
Mhm.
know you don't need to wait for 30 years. Usually after 12 to 14 years, I just explained. It looks very small. But I always get the same question. Why shouldn't I get a 15-year fixed rate loan?
Mhm.
So let's discuss that. And from the discussion, we will clearly understand what it means to get a 50-year loan.
Mhm.
I always ask, can you pay off a 30-year fixed rate loan in 15 years if you want it?
Mhm.
Of course you can. All you need to do is make a little extra principal payment every month and you pay the loan in 15 years. You can pay it off in 16, 17, 14, 11, 9, 2, 19, any number between 0 and 30. You choose. All you have to do is ask online, I have a 30-year fixed rate loan and I want to pay it off in 11 and a quarter years. What should my extra payment be on this loan balance? Boom, you get a number. You just make the extra payment, you pay your loan off in 11 and a quarter year. So you can pay off the 30-year fixed rate loan in 15 years if you want.
Mhm.
Now the question is, can you pay off the 15-year loan in 30 years? The answer is no, you cannot. You can only pay the 15-year fixed rate loan at any period of time between 0 and 15.
Mhm.
That means you are stuck making the higher payment of the 15-year schedule, which includes a large bit of principal, larger. And what happens if one month your finances are low? You just got laid off, grandma got sick. If you had the 30-year fixed rate loan, you could stop making the extra payment to pay it in 15. You can revert to the lower payment of the 30-year schedule. And at your convenience, when your finances are better, you can make extra payments and pay it off in 10 and 15. And by the way, I never did that because I would rather inflation pay it off for me, because inflation keeps eroding the loan. Why should I waste my hard-earned dollars on paying principal when if I just let it be, inflation will pay it off? And by the way, the rents keep up with inflation, so the rents keep going up and up. And anyway, the 30-year loan, in my opinion, is superior because of what I said. Now, some people will come back and retort very smart, in a very smart way. But on the 15-year fixed rate loan, you get a lower interest rate. That is
Right.
very true, very true. But in my opinion, not enough to justify the unbelievable loss of flexibility and sticking you with the higher payment. So the 30-year loan is superior. And finally, being from an engineering background, I like to take things to the extreme sometimes to make a point. Let's
Right.
assume for a second, let's assume it is untrue in my opinion, but let's make the assumption that the 15-year loan is better than the 30-year loan. Using
Mhm.
the same logic, the 10-year loan would be better than 15. Using the same logic, the 5-year loan would be better than 10. Using the same logic, the 1-year loan would be better than 5. Using the same logic, don't get a loan, just buy cash. Oh, but I can't afford to buy cash. Okay, just making a point. Now let's take the other way. Let's say the 30-year loan is better, which I do believe it is, and I just explained why I think it is. If the
Mhm.
30-year loan is better than the 15, using the same logic, the 40-year loan is better than the 30. The 50-year loan is better than the 40. 60,
Mhm.
better than 50. Why? Because when you get a 60-year fixed rate loan, your monthly payment is very small if you choose to make it. Let's say you are in a slow period, your business is not really generating. Okay, you go back to the 60-year schedule. But if your finances are good, you pay the 60-year loan off in 10 years, in 15 years, in 11 years, in 30 years. Same for the
Right.
50-year loan. The 50-year loan is good because it increases affordability.
Hmm.
It makes you, it lets you pay a small payment on a schedule that's, yeah, requires a small payment, but you can pay it off in 30 years or
Right.
15 or 7 or 21 or 41 or whatever number between 0 and 50. However, when I talk about the difference between 30-year loan and 15-year loan, people come with another retort. And that retort has created books. They wrote books about this point. But when you get a 30-year loan, over the lifetime of the loan, you pay 3 times in interest what you borrowed. Of course, depending on what the rate is, but you pay much more in interest. You pay so much interest, it's horrible. What do you say to that? To that, I say the following thing. The people who bring this argument and even wrote books about it forget about one tiny but quite important thing. That tiny yet important thing is called the time value of money.
Hmm.
A dollar today is not a dollar 27 years from now. A
Right.
dollar 27 years from now is much cheaper today, pennies on the dollar. So when people say you're going to pay so much in interest over 30 years, they don't take into account the time value of money and
Hmm.
inflation, which is kind of a shame, especially if you wrote a book about it. That's a little bit almost embarrassing. Yeah. But that's, remember also, you don't have to wait for 30 years when you get a 30-year fixed rate loan. You can pay it off in 10, 15, 11, 9. And I already showed, even if you do nothing, from vast experience, between 12 and 14 years, your loan is so tiny. Many people just say, you know what, my loan is so small, I'm just going to get rid of it already. It's nothing. Okay? So you don't even have to wait for 30 years. So now when people talk about the 50-year loan, the argument gets louder. How much interest are you going to be paying over 50 years? It's going to be, oh, so. Really? Remember, between 12 and 14, maybe 15, maybe 16 a year, because you pay less principal, your loan's
Right.
going to be a joke. Your loan's going to be nothing. You can get rid of it. You don't have to wait for 50 years. People also say, but I'm 57 years old. If I get a 50-year loan, it's going to last until I'm 107. Who cares? If the bank is willing to give you this loan, take it. They look at your estate after you. They look at the house. So, I mean, if you want to be just logical, just rational, just thinking about the numbers and not the hype, yes, the 50-year loan presents a positive. Now, there's another argument that people say. If we introduce a 50-year loan, because you'll need less money to qualify because the payments are lower, more people will qualify, demand will be higher, and prices will go up. That is
Right.
an absolutely distinct possibility, and I understand that can happen. On the other hand, we talk about an affordability crisis, and we are trying to find solution to the affordability crisis. And by the way, the prices don't go out universally everywhere.
Yeah.
Overall, if you came to me today and said, you are buying an investment home today, I know, and I'm your lender, my name is Stacy, and I want to give you a loan, and I'm giving you a choice. You can get a 15-year fixed rate loan,
Mhm.
let's say at 5.25, or a 30-year fixed rate loan at 6.1, or a
Mhm.
50-year loan at 6.5. Yeah, because you know the rate will be higher.
Yeah.
Without thinking, I'll take the 50-year loan,
Hmm.
despite it being at a higher rate. Remember also the actual conditions in the marketplace. Builders are buying down the rate. My builder will talk to you, Stacy, the lender, and say, Stacy, I will be buying his rate down from 6.5 to 4.75. So I'm getting
Right.
a low rate anyway because the builder buy downs, and I'm
Hmm.
getting a 50-year schedule, which I can pay off in 5 years, or 4, or 3, or 15, or 19, as we said a few times in the past few minutes.
Hmm. Now, how do you evaluate whether a longer term loan makes sense for a specific property? Like what numbers or ratios do you have to look at?
To me, it always makes more sense. To me, always the longer, given that it's fixed, that it will never keep up with inflation, it means the minute you got the loan, inflation springs to work, eroding the value day after day, month after month, year after year, constantly. So, regardless of what the property is, give me the longer term loan. I can already make it a short term loan if I choose.
There's a lot of talk about being in debt free. How do you distinguish between toxic debt and strategic and productive debt?
Okay, so I know that there are gurus and advisors who say, get rid of all your debt immediately, get rid as fast as you can, be debt free. But when somebody gives you what I consider to be the biggest financial gift in the world, which is a 30-year fixed rate loan, which doesn't keep up with inflation while everything else does. And of course, you are a reasonable person. You can afford the payment, you get rent from the tenant. I consider this to be an unbelievable debt because it will enable you just with a down payment to buy properties using the incredible gift and letting time, inflation, and the rent from your tenant build you wealth on a large portfolio of homes. If you're buying
Mm,
everything for cash, you'd buy one, two. Most people would stop there. They couldn't buy anymore. So,
right.
mortgage, a fixed rate mortgage on good homes is an excellent strategic investment for most people's future. And I'll be happy to debate with one of the pay off all your debt soon, experts, at any time. I
Right.
understand what they're saying, but when you get a loan on a car, now that is not strategic debt.
Hmm.
I think if I were to buy a car, well, we all know the cliche that the minute you drive the car off the lot, it already loses maybe 15% of its value right there in the minute
Right.
that you drove it off the lot. So after 3 years, it may have lost 30% of the value, 35, depending on the model. So I would say, yeah, if I bought a car, I would buy maybe a 3 or 4 year old car of any model. I may be a very spoiled guy who likes to buy beautiful Mercedes. Fine, I'll buy it 4 years old, 3 years old. I will ask at the dealership what year is a reliable model and buy it for cash. There, I wouldn't get a loan. That's not a constructive loan. Loans to buy your television. So, people say, I just bought a beautiful TV because the Super Bowl is coming soon and I got a loan and the loan. These loans sometimes are very high rate loans also. That's not a good loan. That is not a good loan. I would rather buy a TV that's good, but not the very best. If depending on my finances, I may be in a position where it doesn't matter. But like that. And loans on credit cards, we are getting into the Christmas season right now. People are buying, and it seems to be so easy to buy on payments on credit cards, to buy gifts. These are not strategic wealth building loans.
Right. Now, for someone renting today and afraid to buy, what's the trade-off you want them to see between renting and locking in a long-term fixed payment?
Not only do you lock in a long-term fixed payments, but if the rates ever go down significantly, you can refinance to the lower rate. So that's a miracle in itself. But I mean, you will take yourself from the position of having to pay an ever increasing rent, because the rent does keep up with inflation, to paying a
Hmm.
fixed rate principal and interest. Yeah, there are components that will go up. For example, the property taxes as the value of the home goes up with inflation, or the insurance, stuff like that. But the main payment, principal and interest, will never budge. It will give you an edge. It will build your future. However, I recognize and appreciate that a large percentage of people in the United States just are not interested in buying a home. They
Right.
want to rent, and especially it seems to be said about millennials and Gen Zs that some people say having a home and a mortgage feels like a like a ball and chain. I want to be free to move whenever I want. I want to, okay, that's perfectly fine. It's a life choice. By the way, why go far? When I started buying my rental homes, I was living in Marin County, north of San Francisco, a very expensive area. And I noticed, just because I'm a logical guy, I could
Right.
rent an expensive home for rent that was actually relative to the price very low. I said, sorry, I'm too logical. I'm not buying a home. I'm renting. I was renting. And while I was renting, I was buying all kinds of rental homes in other more affordable markets where the
Yeah.
rates actually were relatively high to the home price. And people kept asking me, if you are such a big real estate expert, why are you renting? And I said, I'm renting because I'm logical. When you live in a super expensive area, sometimes renting is better. I have a series of articles I wrote by invitation for investment magazines. I'll be very happy to share them with your listeners. All you need to do is send us an email at info at icgre.com, and we will send you my articles. And one of the articles is titled, Should I Buy My Own Home First? And in a nutshell, what I say inside is, depends where you live. If you
Hmm.
told me I live in Dallas and I can buy a beautiful home right now for $400,000, I said, by all means, go for it. Go for it. Yes, buy a home. If you told me I live in San Francisco and I'm going to need to buy a home for 2.7 million, I'd say, how much can you rent it for?
Hmm.
Oh, you can rent it for this little? Rent it. Now, it's not going to be little. It's going to be a big rent. But
Right.
compared to 2.7 million, it's very little.
Mhm. Now, let's talk about cash flow. What do you think about balancing a higher payment now with a 30-year loan?
That's this is such a good subject, Stacy. I love you. I love your questions. This is a whole. This is almost, we can spend an entire podcast on it. But since you brought it up, I will bring it here. Okay. Remember when I said that when I began my first couple of dozen homes, I bought at 14% interest rate. In the middle of the 1980s, when I started, Fannie Mae didn't have a limit on the number of loans you could get. There was no limit. And they enabled an investor to buy with only 10% down payment with PMI, or private mortgage insurance, which was what I did because I was a young guy. Yes, I was getting a good Silicon Valley salary, but my cash was limited. I wanted to stretch my cash. So I'm putting only 10% down. Between 10% down and 14% interest rate, you don't have to be a mathematical genius to realize every home I bought started with a negative cash flow. I needed to
Mhm.
make up money, make up money, make up money. Now,
Right.
many people are, under the opinion that you need to have a positive cash flow from day one, unless, and you don't buy. Guess what? I didn't feel that way. I could cover the negatives from my salary, and I had a very clear idea. As I already said before, the 14% is fixed, never going to change, but the rents keep up with inflation. And as I said before, when rates are 14%, inflation is high. So the rents went up. In a year or two, it was already going to be break even, and then positive, positive, more positive. Year one is not important. To me, the cash flow in year one is your salary, your income, your business. Don't put it on the poor house, but let the house be there for 10 years. And oh my God, you may never even have to work again, depending on how many homes you bought. And I already said, in this case, not only did inflation bring the rents up while the mortgage didn't move, making it break even, then positive, then more positive. But even the rates went down to 12, we refinanced to 12. They went down to 9.95. We refinanced to 9.95. Today, I still own quite a few of these homes that I bought at 14%. Now my rates on them are like 6 or 7 or whatever it is. Anyway, many of them are already gone. Many of them are refinanced, so they're still there, but tiny. So I mean, I believe that the cash flow the first year should not determine. I've met with people, two friends who came to me. One of them bought homes, just bought homes. The other one never did anything. There was always an excuse. Oh no, the cash flow. No, they were both in Silicon Valley, making very good money. It's not like you couldn't buy food. I met
Yeah.
with the two, I met with them 14 years later. One of them is already wealthy, retired from his homes. The other one never bought anything because it was all, oh, it's not positive enough. Crying with real tears, crying. Why didn't I do anything? I talked to a couple working in Silicon Valley. She and him were high level managers in two very famous Silicon Valley companies. And when they started buying homes with us, they said, but if we buy this home, it may not be positive cash flow to begin with, or very little, like maybe $10 or maybe even $20 negative. I said,
Yeah.
is it true that between the two of you, you make $1,000,001 a year? Yeah. So you think you're gonna not be able to buy food or something? But yeah, they got the idea. They ended up buying dozens and dozens and dozens of rental homes, not
Yeah.
necessarily caring about year one or year two or year three, but caring very much about year 8 and 9 and 10 and 12. And in that case, many people just don't have to work anymore. I have thousands of stories like this.
Right. Wow. Now, what role does the horizon play? Like, how long should someone be thinking if they're using real estate and long-term loans as a part of a wealth plan?
There are many possibilities for this. One is the example that I cited before, the guy who bought the 19 homes. After
Mhm.
13 years, he saw the loans were so small. He sold 4 homes, paid his tax, paid off the 15 remaining loans, was done in 13 years, retired. Another
Wow.
possibility, which I actually really like, is never finish. Keep them all. Keep them. Let inflation make the loan tinier until the loans even go away. Who cares? And then you still own the homes. And one day, unfortunately, it's true, but we all pass away. And
Hmm.
then another unbelievable gift shows its head. It's called the step up basis. And for people who don't know what that means, look it up. Step up basis. Suffice it to say, upon your demise, which we all will meet at one day, all of these properties go to your heirs for 99.9 of you with no taxes whatsoever. Isn't that nice? So just leaving them there, paying them off. I have a lot of investors who just let the time go by after 12, 14, 15, 16. They say, oh, you know what? My loans are so tiny. I'm just going to pay this loan off.
Yeah.
I'm going to just pay this one off. Okay, that's fine. Also, it's a function of age. Many of my investors, if they get into the 70s, they say, yeah, I have lots of loans are very small. I'm going to start paying them off one by one.
Now, if someone's listening and has adjustable or variable rate now, what questions should they be asking their lender or their advisor?
Well, as it happens, rates were 3% during COVID. Now they're 6%. There's a
Hmm.
very tremendous pressure on the Fed by the administration to lower rates. In fact, they may even lower the rate this month. And there's a new Fed chief coming in who is very affected by the administration's desire to lower rates. So to me, the short term, the next few years, may involve lowering of rates. It doesn't
Hmm.
necessarily translate immediately to lower mortgages, but it usually does after a while. So
Yeah.
those of you with an adjustable rate, you're likely to actually enjoy that because the rate will go down. But long term, you want to be careful. So when the rates go down, at any opportunity you could get, refinance it to a fixed rate, low rate loan, and now you never have to not sleep at night thinking what the future might hold.
Right. Now, one myth about high interest rates that you'd love to retire today, what is it?
Sorry?
One myth about interest rates that you'd love to retire today. You see a lot of a
Oh, I
myth going.
see. I see. The myth is, in a way, the dominance of the 30-year fixed rate loan in the
Mhm.
face of inflation. When I talk to people in other countries, they don't believe we get such an unbelievable gift. The Americans were born into it. They think it's normal. It's not normal. It's so dominant to get this unbelievable gift that the rate of the loan at the time you buy is of very secondary importance. What
Mhm.
of real importance is you got into the game and you start letting inflation erode your loan. So as I said, I bought my first quite a few homes at 14%. If I did nothing else in my life and kept
Mhm.
only those homes that I bought at 14%, they would retire me very well. So the
Right.
myth is wait until the rates are low to buy. No, you can buy at any rate. And in fact, when the rates are higher, the conditions to buy are friendlier, nicer, the prices are lower. And when the rates go down, refinance. Rather than do nothing, 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 then wait until the rates go down and jump into the heated competition. Everybody's trying to buy. The rates are climbing. I mean, the prices are. So that's one myth I would like to, retire.
Now, for new investors, what's one number to focus on before they fall in love with a property?
I would not fall in love with any property. I like to look at properties as, commodities. In my
Hmm.
book, I have several books on Amazon, but I would recommend actually that people get my book called Remote Control Retirement Riches. It'll give you an excellent primer and a guide to all of this. And I say you need to buy at least 3 bedroom, at least 2 baths, 2 car garage, the size no less than 1,200 square feet, no more than 2,200 square feet, mostly from 1350 to about 1,800 is most of it. And don't fall in love. Fall in love with the house you want to live in, but not with an investment home. The number you want to focus in is the down payment. So let's say
Right.
if you're, we saw homes over the weekend, brand new homes from one of our markets for $230,000, brand new. So if you put 20% down, that's 46,000 plus closing cost and loan cost and everything, 55,000. Call it 60. So that's the
Right.
number you focus on. If you have $60,000, you can buy one of these homes. And of course, assuming it's not all the money that you have, in the world, I wouldn't want you to do that.
Now, what's the biggest mistake you see people make when rates go up?
Stopping their wealth building journey,
Mm.
listening to the media, standing on the sidelines and doing nothing, rather than understanding higher rates is an opportunity. The media has scared millions of people. The builders are eager to sell. The prices have gone down because of the high rates. It's an easy time to sell. And as I said before, the builders are likely to buy down the rate into a low rate. So don't stop, continue.
I love it. Now, what's one simple protection move for someone who's worried about future rate changes?
Future,
Future rate changes. Someone is worried about the rate changing in the future.
well, get a fixed rate loan. It'll never go up on you, but you can bring it down. It's an incredible thing. I mean, you fixed let's say the builder bought your rate. Today, as we are speaking, the rates in the marketplace are 6.19. Say you bought
Right.
a house, the builder bought the rate down to 4.75. You already know for life you have 4.75. It won't go up. But suppose in the future, who knows? There's another COVID. Who knows? Rates go down to 3. Refinance to 3.
Yes, I like that. Now, Adiel, listeners were promised 5 concrete actions. What are 5 things they can do this week to get smarter about loan rates?
I would say, again, not that I want to toot this horn, but I would advise people to get one of my books, the one I
Mhm.
just mentioned, Remote Control Retirement Riches. You can find it on Amazon. Just put my name. I would listen to my TEDx talk. It's only 11 and a half minutes long. Go on YouTube, put my name, Adiel Gorel, and put TEDx. That's how they call it, TEDx. Listen to it. It's 11 and a half minutes. Get in touch with us. I'll be happy to talk to you one on one. That's a good step for you to take. I'll take you by the hand, get you into this thing. I try to simplify it and made a difference for thousands of people. Don't be scared of rates. Remember, you don't have to fall in love with any homes. Buy brand new homes in affordable markets in large cities. in the Sun Belt. I explain why in my book. And that's more than five. But you know what? Get in touch with us. Send us an email at info@icgre.com and talk to me. I enjoy it. I don't consider it work.
Hmm.
I love it. That's why I'm not retired.
I love it. Now, what are some of the products and services you offer, and where can they find you?
You can find us on our website, icgre.com. You can send us an email, info@icgre.com. You can join our quarterly events. We just had one 2 days ago. 4 hours, all the markets came in. They showed us their properties. They talked about their markets. I had expert speakers. I took lots of questions. Those are amazing events. Our last event was 2 days ago. Our next event is on March. I believe it's March 7th. It's a Saturday. I don't have a calendar in front of me right now, but I think it's March 7th or 6th. What is it? Let's
Mhm.
see. I'll tell you in a second. It's
March
March 7th.
March 8th.
March 7th. Saturday, March the 7th. And all you have to do to join us, go to our website, icgre.com, under events. You can register for free. Talk to me. That would be a good step. I will not only explain what's going on and hear what you need, I will connect you to real people in real markets where there are real homes and real property managers to take care of your homes who are eager to please us because we bought 2,000 homes, in that market. So we
Yeah.
kind of lend you the power of 2,000 homes, even if you buy just one. And we will take you through the entire process and make it as simple as possible for you. My recommendation is to start with one, only one, because that takes care of a lot of the questions. What's going to happen if this? What's going to, buy one. See it rent, see it get boring. Buying home number two, repetition of the same thing. It's much easier.
I love it. I love it. Well, this has been amazing, Adiel. I really enjoy this conversation today. Is there anything else that you'd like to add to it?
Well, there's about 6 hours more, but we'll talk about it in other podcasts.
Okay. And for your book, everybody can find it on Amazon as well.
Yeah, remote control retirement riches. By the way,
Love it.
that is also the name of the public television, the PBS show that I was invited to do on TV. And just send us an email, info@icgre.com. I'll be happy to send you a link to that show, to the TV show. It ran
Oh,
thousands of times throughout, the whole nation.
oh, wonderful. That's amazing. I love it. I love it. Well, this has been amazing, Adiel. I really appreciate your time, and I learned so much every time you come on the show. And you're just amazing when it comes to real estate and investing. You make it so easy, and the way you explain it is wonderful because sometimes when you don't know a lot about a topic, you can get very confused, and also when you hear so many different opinions in the media, you can get very confused as well. So I'm so glad you took this time out to go over this. And I thank you so much for just, being so helpful and just being you.
Thank you, Stacy. It's been great. Thanks for having me, and your questions are always great.
Thank you so much. And you have a great day.
You too. Bye bye.